Welcome, everyone, to today's deep dive. We are so glad you're joining us because, well, imagine spending like 3 decades of your life mastering ancient energy healing.
Right, 30 years of deep yoga traditions.
Exactly. Building this huge, dedicated following, and then turning around and telling your audience that um, magical manifesting is actually a massive distraction.
It completely flips the script.
It really does.
Right.
Because usually when the topic of the law of attraction comes up, there's a very specific image that comes to mind for all of us, right?
Oh, yeah, the cosmic vending machine.
Yes. You close your eyes, you repeat some magical phrase to the universe, and then you just sort of wait for a sports car or, I don't know, a promotion to drop into your lap.
Like it's just going to magically appear.
Right. But today, we're looking at a set of notes from a video transcript by a man named Osman. He is known online as the Blind Muslim Yogi, and he's the founder of YogaWellness786.com.
And his perspective completely unplugs that vending machine. It's wild.
Okay, let's unpack this because his background is what makes this so fascinating.
It really is. The contrast in his identity is what makes his approach so compelling to analyze. I mean, Osman is an energy healer.
Yeah.
He's a meditation teacher with over 30 years of deep, immersive experience in these ancient practices.
So by all conventional logic, you would absolutely expect him to be the ultimate champion of that ethereal, mystical manifestation, right?
Exactly. The idea that you just, raise your vibration and the universe provides.
But he is profoundly skeptical of it. He actually hates the word manifesting because of that exact magical connotation.
Yeah, he's incredibly pragmatic. He's an entrepreneur who has spent his entire adult life interested in self-motivation, yet he demands empirical logic.
It's such a striking paradox.
It is. He provides a fascinating case study in cognitive flexibility. He manages to hold these two opposing ideas at once.
Right, like strict scientific skepticism while also keeping his mind entirely open to the possibilities of ancient esoteric sciences.
Exactly. He refuses to accept supernatural claims blindly, but he also refuses to just write off the unknown.
So our mission today, for you listening, is to explore how he bridges that gap, how he connects practices that are thousands of years old with modern, rigorous psychological science.
Specifically, we're looking at his incredibly grounded, almost ruthless, action-oriented approach to the law of attraction.
Yeah, ruthless is a good word for it. And to understand how he navigates this, we really have to look at how a pragmatic yogi views the absolute titans of the manifestation industry.
The people selling out global arenas.
Right. So Osmond spends some time in this transcript analyzing Bob Proctor.
Who is a massive name in this space.
Huge. He was heavily involved in popularizing concepts that go all the way back to early 20th century texts, like Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, and Osman approaches Proctor with this mixture of intense scrutiny and honestly unexpected respect.
Which is interesting given how skeptical he is.
Right. He admits he's inherently skeptical of the actual science behind the law of attraction. But Proctor sparks his curiosity for a very practical reason.
The 60 years of experience.
Exactly. Proctor had 60 years of experience teaching this subject. Osman points out that Proctor didn't start as some lofty, theoretical intellectual.
No, he just practiced what he was taught.
Yeah, experienced significant personal changes and then built a massive global empire around teaching it.
There's actually a specific moment Osmond references from a video where Proctor gets a phone call from an assistant confirming that his teachings are now literally in every single country in the world.
What's fascinating here is that Osman, putting on his entrepreneur hat, observes that a business simply cannot scale to that level of global, sustained support without some foundational element of truth to it.
He notes that Proctor's methods aren't just silly incantations, right?
Right. There's a deeply logical structure and psychological theory behind his lessons.
I have to offer some analytical pushback on that logic, though, just plain devil's advocate.
Go for it.
Just because Bob Proctor built a massively successful business teaching the law of attraction globally, does that actually validate the underlying science of manifestation?
It's a fair question.
Or does it just prove that, human beings have this universal desperation for hope, and Bob Proctor was just a generational marketing genius?
I see what you mean.
It's like respecting a master chef who builds a global restaurant empire. You can have immense respect for their business architecture and their supply chain, even if you're highly skeptical of the nutritional value of their secret recipe.
That's a great analogy.
Right. The business success is undeniable, but the ingredients might still just be sugar and air.
Well, Osman actually draws a very similar boundary himself. He completely separates the business achievement from the underlying mechanism.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He respects the 60 years of conviction and the logical way the training was structured. However, despite all that profound respect for the empire Proctor built, Osman definitively states that he would never make the law of attraction the core of his own strategic plans for the future.
Wow, that is such a fascinating line to draw in the sand.
It really is.
He is essentially saying, um, I see your global empire, I respect your hustle and your framework, but I am not building my house on your foundation.
Exactly.
Which immediately begs the question, right? If a man who works with subtle energy and yoga every single day refuses to make manifestation the core of his strategy, what on earth does he rely on?
What's his actual blueprint?
Yeah, how does he build his reality?
Well, he relies on a brutally practical, highly mechanical formula. He maintains a strict dichotomy between what he views as magical thinking and practical reality.
Because to him, the magical aspect is just a dangerous distraction.
Exactly. And he breaks his entire philosophy down into a ratio, the 991 rule.
The 991 rule. This completely shatters the stereotype of sitting on a meditation cushion waiting for wealth.
Oh, totally. His ultimate formula dictates that 99% of your success comes entirely from physical effort.
Just hard work.
Hard work. It comes from refining your action plans and executing bite-sized daily tasks.
And he's very specific, isn't he, that these plans shouldn't just be random.
Right. They need to be based on sound, empirically backed strategies from respected authors and teachers who have proven systems.
So 99% of the equation is just rolling up your sleeves and doing the heavy lifting in the physical world.
Yep. And then he reserves a mere 1% for the esoteric.
Just 1%.
Just 1%. That tiny fraction is for the incantations, the energy work, or the positive affirmations. But he explicitly views that 1% only as a supplement to the physical effort, never a replacement for it.
Okay, so what does this all mean? If we look at this strictly through a critical lens, if his formula is 99% physical action and logical planning, and only 1% energy work, isn't he just describing standard, rigorous project management with a tiny sprinkle of positive thinking on top?
It sounds like it, right?
Yeah. Is that 1% just a psychological placebo? I mean, if you are doing 99% of the hard work anyway, why even bother dedicating time to the 1%?
That's the million-dollar question. But the biological and psychological mechanics of that 1% are actually vital to the 99%.
Oh, okay. How so?
Osman isn't dismissing the energy work as a placebo at all. From a physiological standpoint, incantations and breath work literally alter your physical state.
Right.
When you engage in intense energy practices, you are hyperoxygenating your blood, actively lowering cortisol levels, and shifting your nervous system out of a fight-or-flight response.
Ah, I see. So if you are exhausted, burnt out, and your nervous system is completely fried, you physically cannot execute those bite-sized daily tasks.
Exactly. It's the exact opposite of a placebo. It's a biological prerequisite. Think of it like a computer system. The 1% energy work is booting up the operating system.
Very guy like that.
It prepares the hardware, clears the RAM, and gets the machine running smoothly. The 99% physical effort is the heavy software applications you run throughout the day. The spreadsheets, the business meetings, the complex problem solving.
And you cannot run heavy software if the operating system is crashed.
Precisely. The 1% is scientifically necessary to ignite the engine, but sitting around with a booted-up computer and never opening an application isn't going to build a business.
That reframes the entire concept so well. The energy work is the catalyst, not the destination.
Exactly.
But how he actually implements that 1% operating system boot up is where things get genuinely intense. Because he's not just, looking in the mirror and giving himself a quick pep talk.
Oh, no, not at all.
He is engaged in a daily, rigorous biological hack.
It's a serious feat of physical and mental endurance. Osman's daily practice involves a minimum of 2 hours of energy and breath work, specifically an ancient system he refers to as Kriya practice.
2 hours. For those listening who might not be familiar with the physical mechanics of Kriya, what does that actually look like?
Well, Kriya yoga involves deep, rhythmic breathing techniques combined with specific physical locks and postures. It's designed to move energy up and down the spine, but biologically, it involves intense manipulation of your oxygen and carbon dioxide levels. Osman breaks his 2-hour daily minimum down into an average of about 100 rounds of this practice.
Wait, 100 rounds?
Yeah, and each round lasts roughly a minute to a minute and a half.
So 2 hours of intense breath work every single day.
Every single day.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because during those 2 hours of deep ancient practice, he doesn't chant a single magical phrase.
Nope.
He isn't repeating esoteric mantras. Instead, he puts on headphones and listens to a 2-hour audiobook.
And he's not listening to spiritual poetry either. He is listening to complex business systems, personal life strategies, and proven methodologies from respected authors that he wants to integrate into his daily life.
He is pairing dense corporate business information with ancient Kriya yoga.
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but he's doing this because he is actively leveraging brainwave science.
Yes, let's break down the neuroscience of that for a moment, because this is crucial.
Okay, so Osman explains that the sheer physical intensity of awakening his energy through this 2-hour practice intentionally forces his brain into the theta brainwave state.
Right. Human brainwaves operate at different frequencies depending on your state of consciousness. Like right now, as we are talking and analyzing this, we are in a beta state, our normal, waking, analytical mind.
Exactly. And when you relax and close your eyes, you drop into alpha. But theta is a much slower frequency, typically between 4 and 8 hertz.
It's that hypnagogic state, right?
Yes. It's the twilight zone you experience right before you fall asleep or during profound meditation.
It's that brief window where your dreams sort of start to blur with reality.
And from a psychological standpoint, when your brain slows down into the theta level, your conscious critical mind is subdued. The critical faculty is essentially the bouncer at the door of your subconscious.
The bouncer, I love that.
Right. When you're in beta, that bouncer is checking ideas, rejecting ideas, bringing up your past failures and saying, you can't achieve this business plan.
You're not smart enough for this.
Exactly. But in theta, the bouncer goes on a coffee break. Your subconscious mind becomes highly suggestive and wide open to programming.
That creates such a vivid picture of what he is trying to achieve. Instead of standing outside the locked front door of the brain, shouting a catchy manifestation slogan through the keyhole and hoping the subconscious eventually hears it.
Which is what most people do.
Right. Osman is using ancient Kriya breathwork to literally pick the lock.
Yeah.
He sends the bouncer away, opens the door to the subconscious, walks in, and just reads it, a 2-hour, highly logical textbook on business systems while the mind's defenses are completely down.
He is bypassing the conscious filter entirely. He argues that absorbing a whole system of thought, an entire book's worth of proven strategies into your subconscious, while in a highly receptive theta state, is a far more practical and mathematically effective way to change your reality.
They're just magically hoping things appear.
Exactly. He is essentially coding new habits directly into his hard drive.
Now, the notes also mention that he slips into an even deeper state occasionally, the delta state.
Right, delta. That's the lowest frequency brainwave associated with deep, dreamless sleep and profound physical healing.
Okay.
Osman notes that he doesn't stay in theta 100% of the time during his 2 hours. Because he has to remain somewhat conscious to count his 100 rounds of breath work, he maintains the theta level primarily.
Makes sense.
But he experiences pockets of time about 10% during every round, so roughly 5 seconds every 20 rounds or so, where he slips completely into the delta level.
How does he even describe the delta experience while listening to a business book? Because that sounds impossible to process.
He calls it a complete non-experience.
A non-experience.
Yeah, it's a profound void. The challenge is that you cannot actively absorb an audiobook in delta because conscious processing shuts down entirely. So his goal is to surf that exact edge, staying deep enough in theta to bypass the critical mind, but avoiding dropping so far into delta that he stops absorbing the practical strategies.
That is such a delicate balance.
Mm-hmm.
But with all this focus on hacking the subconscious, it does raise an interesting technological question.
Oh.
Why an audiobook? Because there is a massive trend online right now of using subliminals.
Yeah.
You know, those audio tracks that layer completely inaudible frequencies underneath the sound of rain or ocean waves, claiming to bypass the conscious mind and reprogram your DNA for wealth or success. Why doesn't he just use those?
Well, Osman addresses the subliminal trend with his trademark pragmatism. He acknowledges that, psychologically speaking, the concept of programming the subconscious is valid science.
Sure.
But he looks at the execution of these inaudible tracks and asks a very simple question. Since we literally cannot hear the frequencies, how do we know what is actually on the track?
Right. What are you actually putting in your brain?
Exactly. Do they work? He admits it's possible.
But he isn't willing to bet his business on a maybe.
Precisely. He states plainly that he simply does not have the time to find out. He argues that he cannot afford to dedicate 10 years of his life to experimenting with unproven, inaudible frequencies just to see if they might yield results.
He's a busy entrepreneur running an actual business.
Right. He already knows, based on established psychological science, that the repetition of proven strategies while in a theta state absolutely does work. So he abandons the mystical mystery box of subliminals and sticks with the proven method.
I don't have 10 years to see if this magic frequency works. I have a business to run.
It's so blunt.
It really is. It's such a remarkably grounded perspective from a man who spends 2 hours every morning intensely manipulating his internal energy. It really makes you wonder where this hardcore demand for empirical proof comes from. Like, how does an energy healer become the guy demanding logical action plans?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, to understand the root of that philosophy, we really have to look at the person who had the most profound influence on molding his character,
Who was that?
his mother.
Okay, so you would naturally assume that the mother of an esoteric yogi and energy healer must have been deeply spiritual herself, right? Perhaps introducing him to these mystical concepts at a young age.
It is the exact opposite. Osman describes his mother as an absolute empiricist. She is someone who believes only in things that are strictly logical and proven. He says very plainly that even though he is a professional energy healer, he is quite certain his own mother does not believe in energy healing.
Wait, he has spent 30 years mastering this craft, and his own mother wouldn't book a session with him.
Nope. She might not disrespect it to his face, but she would never utilize the services of an energy healer. If she has a medical issue, she goes directly to her general practitioner.
Oh, wow.
She relies entirely on Western medicine and follows her doctor's recommendations to the letter. If her doctor, or even Osman, recommends a natural supplement, she will only accept it if there is rigorous science backing it up.
That's hilarious.
And even then, Osman jokes that he isn't entirely sure she actually consumes the supplements.
That is the ultimate skeptical environment to grow up in.
And Osman credits that exact environment, being raised by a mother with an unrelenting demand for logic, with shaping his entire worldview.
It makes perfect sense now.
It didn't just make him pragmatic about how he runs his business. It gave him a profound philosophical stance on authority, truth, and expertise. Because of that upbringing, he holds a deeply ingrained belief that no human being can ever be the ultimate, all-knowing authority on the planet.
Including the experts with the most impressive credentials.
Exactly. He points out that an individual can gain massive respect during their lifetime. They can win Nobel Prizes, author volumes of eloquent books, and present mountains of experimental data.
And yet, a decade later, completely new evidence can emerge and overturn their life's work.
Exactly. He has been observing human behavior and practicing in his field for almost half a century. He has watched brilliant philosophies trend and fade. He's seen absolute scientific certainties be totally dismantled.
So he just doesn't buy into absolute authority.
Right. Because of this, he approaches every single theory, including his very own beliefs, with extreme intellectual humility.
That humility is a rare trait. I mean, Osman explicitly states that he respects everyone's viewpoint, but he also freely acknowledges that his own viewpoint might be absolutely incorrect.
Yeah, he says that right out loud.
He admits that the person he vehemently disagrees with might actually be right. If you think about the experts you encounter today, how often do you hear someone with 50 years of dedicated experience openly admit that their entire foundational framework could be wrong?
It is incredibly rare. Human psychology usually dictates that the longer someone invests in a specific field, the more dogmatic and defensive they become about their knowledge.
Oh, definitely.
But Osman uses his vast experience to fuel his open-mindedness. He refuses to say no to anyone or anything right out of the gate.
But there is a crucial caveat to that open-mindedness, isn't there? Keeping his mind open to new theories does not mean his brain is a dumping ground for every idea that comes along.
He makes a sharp distinction there. Keeping an open mind means he won't call a manifestation guru a liar. He will listen to their magical theory, and he will admit they might possess a piece of the truth.
Okay, but
he is still going to demand a rigorous, scientific, bite-sized action plan before he actually spends a single hour of his day working on their concept.
it operates as the ultimate filter. I hear your theory, I respect your perspective, but does this make empirical, logical sense for my business execution today?
Exactly.
So, as we synthesize this deep dive into the mind of the blind Muslim yogi, what is the actual blueprint we are walking away with? We have explored the mechanics of Bob Proctor's empire, the 991 rule of action versus energy, the neuroscience of theta brainwaves, and the influence of a hyperlogical mother.
The synthesis is a complete redefinition of what manifestation actually entails. For Osman, true manifestation has absolutely nothing to do with closing your eyes and wishing for the universe to deliver a result.
No magic words.
None. It is about utilizing ancient, proven physiological tools like 2 hours of deep Kriya breathwork to prep the biology of your brain. You are purposefully shifting your nervous system into a state where your subconscious can accept massive growth and complex strategies.
Using the esoteric practices to boot up the biological operating system.
Precisely. But the moment that mind is primed and the operating system is running smoothly, 99% of your time and energy must be dedicated to the ruthless, logical execution of bite-sized tasks in the real world.
It is the perfect marriage of profound internal state management with relentless external project management.
It really is.
And for anyone listening and analyzing their own routines today, you don't necessarily need to commit to 2 hours of intense Kriya yoga tomorrow morning to extract the value from this.
Right. Start small.
The real takeaway is adopting Osman's incredibly balanced cognitive framework. It's about holding space for spirituality and internal energy, acknowledging that the physiological state of our thoughts matters immensely while simultaneously demanding practical, scientifically sound action plans.
Keep your mind completely open to new ideas. Acknowledge that you might not be the ultimate authority on any subject, but fiercely guard what you actually allow into your daily execution plan.
Put it through the filter.
Yes. Put every single theory through the crucible of logic and physical effort before you dedicate your life to it.
It brings us right back to the cosmic vending machine we mentioned at the start. Osman is showing us that the vending machine was always a myth. But if you are willing to study the biological mechanics of the machine, learn how to physically build the gears yourself, and spend 99% of your time turning the wrench, you can construct whatever reality you envision.
You are trading in a magic wand for a highly effective blueprint.
A blueprint over a magic wand. I love that. And on that note, I want to leave you with one final thought to explore on your own. Osman uses his deepest state of meditation, that highly suggestive theta brainwave state where the critical mind is completely bypassed, to literally reprogram his subconscious with complex business strategy.
It's powerful stuff.
Ask yourself, if you could bypass your own conscious doubts, if you could pick the lock to your own subconscious and drop one complete audiobook of knowledge directly into your highly suggestive theta state, what book would you choose to rewrite your reality?